Okay, Nigeria, May 10th, 2025. If you just glance at the news headlines for that single day, wow. It's
It's a lot.
It really is a complete whirlwind.
Yeah, you've got stories about potential extraditions or lack thereof, big security meetings happening, political shifts.
Industrial action, even a business reality show making a comeback. It's quite the mix.
It absolutely paints this really dynamic picture.
It does. And what's interesting, I think, is when you actually look at this snapshot, you start seeing these underlying currents, right?
Yeah.
Especially around governance and, well, how far it reaches.
Exactly. And that's what we want to do here. We've pulled together a bunch of these headlines, thrown in some did you know bits, a little historical context too.
Right.
Our goal is really to just dig into this one day, pull out the important stuff, and hopefully give you a clear, engaging picture of what's going on, without drowning you in every single detail.
Makes sense. It's a lot to take in otherwise.
So, yeah, with so much happening, where do we even start trying to make sense of it all? Well, maybe we start with politics and governance, since that often shapes, well, pretty much everything else.
Good idea.
Take that headline about Simon Ekpa, no extradition process against him. Now, extradition, just so we're clear, that's when one country asks another to hand someone over for trial or jail time.
Right.
The fact that it's not happening here, well, it raises some interesting questions, doesn't it, about the government strategy for dealing with people outside Nigeria who are, let's say, causing issues inside Nigeria. What's the thinking?
It does make you wonder, is it about preferring diplomacy? Or maybe there are, legal hurdles we don't see.
Could be.
And then you've got the northern governors meeting about terror attacks. The way it's framed, it sounds urgent, really serious concern about security up there.
Definitely implies high stakes.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like just a routine meeting. It hints that they might be looking at, new strategies,
Right.
more cooperation, something to tackle what's clearly a persistent threat.
Precisely. And those regional security issues, they almost always ripple outwards,
Yeah.
affecting national politics, where money goes, overall stability.
Sure.
And speaking of the political landscape, you see those Kebbi senators defecting to the APC after meeting the president.
Yes, saw that.
That really shows you how fluid political power can be, right? These kinds of shifts, they often happen because of, changing local dynamics, maybe seeing benefits and aligning with the party in power. It can reshape things in the legislature.
So for sure. It definitely suggests the ruling party might be strengthening its hand in the Senate. Makes you wonder what was said in those meetings, what promises were made.
Exactly. What were the deals?
Then we can't really ignore the ongoing legal stuff, can we? Yahaya Bello clashing with the EFCC counsel, and the EFCC saying they'll probe Matawal too.
Right, the NADBN fraud trial for Bello.
Yeah, this constant focus on alleged corruption, at high levels.
Mhm.
It shows there's still this push for accountability, even if it gets, dramatic sometimes.
And what's interesting is how persistent these anti-corruption drives seem to be, whoever is involved. It sends a message, I think, even though the legal processes themselves can drag on and get complicated.
Definitely send the message.
And that clash between Natasha and Akpabio over a court order, those public disagreements, they often point to underlying tensions, maybe within the political class itself.
Yeah, and highlights how important the courts are in trying to mediate these things, provide checks and balances.
Absolutely crucial role.
It's that constant dance of power and legal oversight.
Yeah.
And amidst all that political maneuvering, there was the sad news about Speaker Abbas losing his mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, isn't it? These are people with personal lives going on alongside everything
A
else.
very human element in the midst of it all.
Then, switching focus a bit, Nigeria engaging internationally, President Tinubu welcoming Qatari interest in agriculture and food security.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a clear signal, seeking foreign investment in really vital areas, trying to boost self-reliance, maybe?
I think so. And if you link that to the celebration for Tunda Badmus, the agric icon,
Right, I saw that too.
it sort of reinforces that same point, doesn't it? Nigeria valuing agriculture, looking for outside help, but also celebrating its own experts in that field. It's critical.
Absolutely. And then, still on politics for a moment, the president visiting Anambra, making promises. That's classic political outreach, isn't it? Focusing on regional needs, trying to build support across the map.
Standard practice, yeah. Showing presence, addressing local concerns. Okay, shall we pivot to the economy?
Let's do it. And there's a really interesting contrast here, actually.
Oh.
You've got the Warrior refinery workers on strike.
Right.
At the exact same time, Abia State is announcing plans for a modular refinery, those smaller, simpler ones.
Ah, yes. Interesting timing.
It really throws the spotlight on the struggles of the big existing oil infrastructure, doesn't it? And maybe the potential for these smaller, maybe more flexible, local solutions to help with fuel production.
That contrast is very telling, I agree. The strike probably points to, well, deeper issues in the established system, maybe working conditions, maybe lack of investment, who knows?
Could be anything.
While the modular plan suggests, yeah, maybe a different, more decentralized path to boosting local refining.
And then there's that massive figure for petrol imports.
Yeah.
Just huge amounts still coming in, even with the Dangote refinery supposedly up and running.
Astonishing figure, wasn't it?
It really makes you ask, what's actually going on in the energy market? Why are we still relying so heavily on imports when we've got this massive new domestic capacity online?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or perhaps billion-dollar in this case. It definitely challenges the narrative that the new refinery would immediately slash imports. Maybe it takes time to ramp up, or there are other market dynamics at play.
Yeah, the numbers just don't seem to match the expectation, at least not yet.
Okay, slightly different gear. The return of that business reality show, The Next Titan.
Kind of a cultural thing, right? Reflects this ongoing interest in entrepreneurship, the whole competitive business spirit.
Definitely. And those shows, they can give you a glimpse into the dreams, but also the obstacles that entrepreneurs face in Nigeria often showcases a lot of grit.
True. Speaking of big projects, though, the UAE pledging support for the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline.
That's a huge one. Massive potential impact, right? Energy security across the region, more international ties.
Absolutely enormous undertaking. Geopolitically significant, too, potentially.
For sure. And then there's the government pushing ahead with the Naira for crude policy.
Right. That's a big economic move.
Very significant. Trying to shift away from using U.S. dollars for oil sales. It's bold, could help the Naira, maybe, but also carries risks in how global markets react.
Definitely bold. An attempt to get more control over the currency, maybe stabilize it against global swings.
That seems to be the goal. We also saw that the federal government generated, $300 million from private universities?
Yeah, saw that figure.
It's a small detail, maybe, but gives you a little window into how the higher education sector chips into the national finances.
You don't often see it broken down like that. Interesting perspective. And then the controversy mentioned around NNPCL and Dangote.
What did that suggest to you?
Well, it seems like the sheer size and influence of Dangote's operations in the energy sector are just attracting a lot of attention, sparking debates about its ties with the state oil company.
That makes sense. Given the scale of investment and how it could reshape the whole energy picture, that kind of scrutiny is almost inevitable, really. Points to the need for transparency, clear rules.
Absolutely. And finally, on the economic front, just a local note, PDP approving salaries for officials.
Right, just the nuts and bolts of state-level finances ticking over.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift again. Social issues, security, always critical areas.
Always.
That Benin border closure affecting a Nigerian community in the north, that immediately flags potential issues, right? Diplomatic friction, maybe, but definitely disruption for people living right there on the border.
Yeah, those kinds of closures can hit local economies and lives hard. Often signal some underlying tension, like you said, security or diplomatic, that needs sorting out.
Definitely. On a more positive note, though, the government planning to bring back 15,000 stranded Nigerians from abroad.
That's a huge number.
It is a really significant humanitarian effort. Shows the government taking responsibility for citizens stuck overseas.
Absolutely. A massive logistical task and a big financial commitment, too, I imagine.
I doubt. And then the police rescuing Ivorians from kidnappers, arresting suspects.
That highlights the cross-border nature of crime, doesn't it? Shows that security threats don't just stop at the borderline, and cooperation is needed.
Exactly. It's often transnational. Then you have the Nigerian Air Force reporting they neutralized, I think it was 1,150 terrorists in the Northwest.
Yeah, that's a big number. Though you always have to be a bit careful interpreting those figures in the context of ongoing, complex operations.
True. It's just a stark reminder, though, of the security challenges that are still very much present in parts of the country.
Absolutely. And similarly, the NDLEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, making all those arrests and seizures.
Seems like they're constantly busy.
It shows that fight against drug trafficking and use is relentless, tackling both the supply and the demand side.
Yeah. Then there was the JMB results. Released the university entrance exams. A lot of results withheld, apparently, including that really bizarre case of the visually impaired candidate who allegedly hired another visually impaired person to take the exam for them.
I saw that. That is Quite something. Really raises questions about exam integrity, doesn't it? And how you even prevent something like that.
It's incredibly perplexing. Shows you need constantly adapting systems to counter fraud, even in ways you wouldn't expect.
For sure. Switching gears to consumer rights, the NCAA, the Aviation Authority, fining Kenya Airways for mistreating passengers.
Good. Sends a message.
Exactly. Sets expectations for airlines operating in Nigeria. Regulatory oversight protecting passengers.
It shows there are consequences if standards aren't met, which is important.
Definitely. And the Hajj pilgrimage starting up. Vice President Shettima talking about unity among pilgrims.
Yeah, that's a major event, religiously and nationally. Brings lots of different people together for that shared experience.
And the emphasis on unity during events like that is always, a relevant message.
Always.
Yeah.
Then, the head of the NYSC, the Youth Service Corps, advising members on using social media responsibly.
Addressing digital citizenship.
Yeah, it feels very contemporary, right? Helping young people navigate the online world carefully, ethically.
So important these days with information and misinformation spreading so fast. Promoting critical thinking online.
Definitely. And NELFND, the new education loan fund, pledging to fight fraud.
Crucial.
Absolutely essential, isn't it? With that much money potentially going out for student loans, you need tight controls to make sure it goes where it's intended, prevent misuse.
Yeah, safeguarding the integrity of the whole thing is paramount.
Okay, then a couple more localized but still significant things. That Rivers State vigilante group telling native doctors to leave town.
Saw that one. Potential flashpoint.
Could be. Hints at tensions between groups in the community, maybe. Raises questions about who has law enforcement authority locally.
Yeah, those situations can reflect deeper social issues or power struggles. Needs careful handling.
And then, sadly, the fire in Naija and reports of cult killings in Bielsa.
Just tragic reminders of local dangers, violence still plaguing communities.
Yeah, and that really disturbing arrest for transporting human organs, allegedly for ritual purposes.
That was particularly shocking. Highlights a really grim, dark side of crime.
Truly chilling. Okay, let's move to infrastructure development. Some focus on basic services.
Good. Always needed.
Minister White talking about improving water supply in Abuja's satellite towns, and the FCT administration asking for more federal money.
Both point to the same thing, really trying to meet critical infrastructure needs in and around the capital. Clean water is just fundamental.
Absolutely. And the fact the FCT needs federal funds shows that shared responsibility between government levels for development.
Right. Then there was that call from the public for a pedestrian bridge over the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
Seems essential, doesn't it? That road is so busy, so dangerous for pedestrians.
Feels long overdue, yeah. Basic safety measure on a major route.
Then, in Ogun State, Governor Abiodun commissioning a facility to produce rapid diagnostic tests.
Oh, that's interesting. Boosting local healthcare tech.
Yeah, positive step. Could reduce reliance on imported medical stuff, maybe make tests more available, cheaper.
Potentially big benefits there for accessibility. And similarly, in Lagos, Governor Sanwo-Olu opening a new accident and emergency center out in Ipe.
Expanding healthcare infrastructure, getting emergency care closer to more people, crucial investment.
Definitely. And finally, under infrastructure, Lagos starting to demolish illegal buildings.
Always a tricky one. Urban planning enforcement versus the impact on people living or working there.
Yeah, a complex balancing act. Development goals, planning rules, but also the human cost and welfare considerations.
No easy answers there. Okay, let's touch on health and well-being more broadly. That report on malaria deaths in Africa.
Rim reading.
Yeah, with Nigeria unfortunately bearing a really significant burden. Just a stark reminder of the huge public health challenges still facing the country.
Malaria is just relentless. Needs constant concerted effort, prevention, treatment, everything. Still absolutely critical.
For sure. Then, poultry farmers complaining about a big drop in egg sales.
The economic side of things, hitting a specific sector.
Exactly. Shows how wider economic pressures can ripple down and affect everyday industries, people's livelihoods.
Yeah, illustrates those vulnerabilities. On a much more positive note, the sports day for visually impaired athletes.
That was lovely to see.
Really inspiring, wasn't it? Just highlights inclusion, participation, celebrating everyone's abilities.
So important for community spirit, demonstrating ability in all its forms.
Definitely. Then there was the plea from manufacturers about plastic, saying recycle, don't just ban them outright.
That ongoing debate, isn't it? Environment versus economy.
Exactly. Finding that balance. How do you protect the environment without crippling industries? Looking for workable solutions.
It's a really tough one. And lastly here, Lagos State paying out benefits to families of deceased civil servants.
an important function of government social welfare, supporting bereaved families, recognizing public service.
Yeah, crucial part of the social safety net. Okay, quick look at international relations and migration again.
Right. We mentioned the UAE support for the pipeline earlier.
Yes, and there's also that figure 375 Nigerians sought asylum in Sweden in 2024.
Interesting statistic. Gives you a small window into migration patterns. Makes you wonder about the reasons, the push and pull factors leading people to seek refuge elsewhere.
Yeah, complex mix of social, economic, political drivers usually behind those decisions.
And then Gombe State approving funds for pilgrims and pilgrims being airlifted from Imo Airport.
More examples of that international travel for religious reasons.
Yeah, highlights how significant pilgrimage is for many Nigerians and the big logistical operations involved.
Definitely. Okay, now for those quirky did you know bits we found.
The fun facts.
Group jogging being illegal in Burundi. Did you know that?
I did not. It's unexpected. Really makes you think about different countries' approaches to public order, maybe concerns about gatherings turning into dissent.
It's certainly surprising.
Yeah.
Shows how varied laws and norms are globally. And what about nutmeg? The hallucinogenic effects.
Yes. A little cautionary tale tucked away there. A reminder that even common kitchen spices can pack a punch if you overdo it.
Good to know. Maybe stick to small amounts in cooking.
Probably wise. It just shows even everyday things can have hidden properties. And the one about Pope Leo XIV, always wanting to be a priest.
Yeah, I like that. It kind of humanizes him, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Takes him beyond just the historical religious figure role.
It does. Reminds you that even major historical figures had personal dreams and journeys before they became, well, historical figures.
Exactly. Okay, finally, today in history. May 10th, 1994. Nelson Mandela becomes South Africa's first black president.
Truly monumental. A huge turning point in history, not just for South Africa, but globally. The end of apartheid. A powerful symbol of hope, reconciliation.
Immense significance, just transformative.
Absolutely. And the Christian Dior quote you found. Black and white might be sufficient, but why deprive yourself of color?
Isn't that lovely?
It really is. A beautiful thought about embracing richness, diversity, vibrancy, just life in all its fullness.
A great sentiment to reflect on. So wrapping up this deep dive into just one day, May 10th, 2025, it's genuinely remarkable, the sheer breadth and variety of things happening in Nigeria.
It really is, from high-level politics and economic policies down to local security issues, social initiatives, international connections.
It's a constant flow.
And what's really insightful, I think, is seeing how these headlines, even ones that seem totally separate, can actually connect. They start to paint this bigger, more detailed picture of the country's priorities right now, its challenges, its ambitions.
You really do start to see the threads connecting governance, the economy, social issues, global links.
Exactly. The interconnectedness becomes clearer.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener. Thinking about everything we've touched on today, from that single day's news, was there one particular headline, one detail that really stuck with you?
Yeah.
And what deeper questions does it maybe raise for you about where Nigeria is right now and where it might be heading? It really shows how all these events weave together into the nation's story.
Hopefully this deep dive has given you a bit of a foundation, a way to frame some of these issues, and maybe keep an eye on how things develop from here.